folks, and welcome to review number 45. Today we're going to look at a slightly different kind of transforming toy. Today we look at the Kre-O Transformers Kreon Micro-Changers. So starting off looking at the packaging here, figures come packaged in just a plastic envelope here. On the front you have the title, and then you have the 6 figures that are currently available pictured on the front, and then you also have more detailed pictures on the back showing their transformations as well. One thing to point out about the packaging is at the bottom here there is a number code, and you can actually use the last digit over here of this code to determine what is in the blind pack, which kind of takes the randomness out of the blind pack. But if you're like me and only looking for 1 or 2 figures, you can do a Google search and determine what which is in each package. Only the last digit is really critical. The first 5 digits over here, there's several different ones, but as long as the last digit is what you're looking for, then so far there hasn't been any discrepancies with the packaging. So let's open these up and see what we got inside here. Well, this one, as I was expecting, looks like it should be Waspinator here, and inside, of course, they come packaged in pieces, and they come inside this another little plastic bag inside. So let's get to building these little guys. Now, I do want to preface this, though, with the fact that I am not a building block guy. When the first wave of Kre-O came out last year, that was really the first time I'd put together a building block kit since, well, sometime in the late 80s. As such, I come at these figures as a Transformers fan first and foremost, not a Lego guy or a minifig collector. Now, I really didn't have any interest in collecting all of these figures, but I was curious to see how these Micro-Changers turned out. I have a few other Kreons that came with the few Kre-O sets that I have built, so I thought these guys could add a little bit to the ones I do have. Of the 6 Kreons that came out in this wave, really only Galvatron and Waspinator interested me, which is why I selected these 2. And that selection is really based more on my like of the characters rather than anything else. As for the figures themselves, I really like how they painted the chest details on the torsos of these figures. It is disappointing, though, that you have to cover up those paint apps with this plastic vest piece in order to have a port on the figures' backs. That also leads to the kibble that is on the backs of these 2 figures. Now, especially in Galvatron's case, it seems like they were just trying to find some way to store the extra parts on the backs of these robots. The nice thing about Kre-O, though, is that you can simply pull these parts off and store them elsewhere if you don't want them on the figure. Now, it also leads to another problem I have with these figures. The tolerances on some of the ports seem to be a bit off. Some of the connectors are too loose, and some are just way too tight and hard to connect. The tight connectors in particular are also already exhibiting signs of stress marks on them, and I wouldn't want for them to crack prematurely. Now, there really isn't a transformation process to speak of when changing these figures from robot to vehicle mode. Just like the larger Kre-O sets, you have to completely take these figures apart and then reassemble them in order to get the alt mode. Now, given that these are technically building block toys, the parts forming is excusable. I also thought that they were pretty creative in coming up with the figure's alt modes. Most of the parts used to create the alternate modes for these figures are reused, off-the-shelf parts. So coming up with ways to create a wasp or a cannon from these parts is impressive. However, since there aren't as many custom parts, the alt modes don't quite turn out like you would expect. Waspinator looks more like some sort of strange concept aircraft, and Galvatron, well, I'm not really sure what Galvatron looks like, but he sure doesn't resemble his G1 cannon mode. I still have to give the designers props, though, for making an effort to come up with an alt mode for these figures. As far as Transformers toys go, the Kre-O Transformers Kreon Micro-Changers fall flat for me. The transformation is mostly parts forming, and many of the character details get covered up with the added parts required for the transformation. However, if you are a building block guy, or you collect minifigs, these guys may be right up your alley. I personally don't intend on buying any more of these guys, but I'm sure there are people out there that can't wait to get their hands on them. You just have to be in the appropriate niche market.